From the Fantasy Armchair, it is the Fantasy TyRant.
Hey there, fellow fantasy football freaks. Welcome back to the Fantasy Armchair. So I'm going to be doing a little something different here. I was in the middle of making my rankings and I was thinking to myself, what am I doing? Looking at rankings on a screen with some animated background? That's not good YouTube material. Maybe it's helpful, but it's not good for viewing. It's a waste of my time, that's a waste of your time. It'd be much better if it was just like in an article, right? You could read the names of players in each position, see those little red arrows and green arrows, showing who's up in the rankings, who's down in the rankings. A little blurb under each arrowed player to kind of show you why I ranked them up or down that week. Something like that. Wouldn't that be great? I think that's like the number one complaint that I've had from people. It's like, why don't you just put your ranks in an article? Can you do some articles for us, TyRant? Things like that. Well, folks, as they say, ask and you shall receive. So I'm changing some things up around here, and I've got a big announcement. I should have a bump for that. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a big announcement. I don't know, something along those lines. Maybe I'll have that for you next week. No, it's not the big announcement, because we haven't reached 300 subscribers yet, but we're getting close. So hit the subscribe button, and we get to 300 before the end of the month. I'll have some awesome shit for you guys. Starting next week, I'll be leaving the construction site behind for a little bit. Again, just humor me. And I'll be taking the Fantasy Armchair on the road. That's right, old Cherry and I are going to be going state to state, visiting the most famous spot in each one, as I bring you my content on the road. All except for one show each week is going to be at a new location. And I say all but one show because starting next week, I've got a new show that's not going to be on the road. Nah, it's going to be something a little bit different. Instead of a ranking show, I'm going to have a new show for you on Thursdays. On Thursday mornings, it'll go over the Thursday games. It'll come out every Thursday morning, 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Eastern. But you can watch it anytime you want. You don't got to get up that early. But if you are up that early, come join me for the Thursday B&B. Yeah, 6 a.m. is early, so I'm not getting out of bed for this one. And neither should you. Just grab some breakfast, and get back into bed, and snuggle with the Fantasy TyRant. And I'll tell you which players should be on your bench, and which players you should give a bump to your starting lineup in the Thursday game. Breakfast in bed with this stud as he gives you advice on how to beat down your opponents? Hey, what better way to start your day, huh? But that begs the question, what about the ranks? Well, here's what I'm going to do. Starting next week, I'm going to be writing up an article about the rankings for each position. I'll have all those little green and red arrows indicating who I rank up, who I rank down, with a little blurb under each of the arrowed players. Hey, what a concept. And that's just the beginning. More and more articles will come out over time, plus tons of bonus content. And you'll be able to find all this awesome shit on my Patreon page. That's right, this is going to be exclusive for my Patreon patrons, or as I call them, my super freaks. Exclusive videos, content, articles, lots of stuff. Plus, one-on-one advice every week, anytime you want, about your fantasy squad, or whatever else you got going on in your life. I'll give you help setting lineups, pulling off trades, who to keep, who to drop, roster management, what to feed your cats. Hey, I know what's good. Whatever you need help with, and all of that you get for the lowest tier price of $5 a month. That ain't shit, right? Just hand me a $5 a month and you get all of that. Everything that you're gonna need to crush your league every week. But for today's show, I'm gonna give you a little sneak preview of what to expect in those articles. So here we go. I'm gonna go over my top 50 running backs for this week. Enjoy. So I won't talk about every player, just the ones who are ranked significantly higher or lower than their average. We need to keep an eye on that Dalvin Cook injury. It looks like he'll play so far, but be careful. Hopefully you picked up Madison. If not, and he's still on your waiver wire, go get him now. Otherwise, you should be fine. I think he will play. It is an afternoon game on Sunday, but we should still have his status Sunday morning. Come see me on the Tika Stika Power Hour this Sunday morning, and I'll have the latest on all players, including Dalvin Cook. Worried about Chubb against the Bears defense? Don't be. Nick Chubb is matchup proof, and this season, if he stays healthy, he could be putting up his best numbers ever. Even with Hunt getting his, there's still enough room for the Chubb. Chubb shoves through defenders and penetrates the hole. Hard to bring him down, he always stays erect. Okay, enough with the dick jokes. You get the picture. I think Nick Chubb is a top 5 fantasy running back this season. so I may not have to move him out of this area all season. He's averaged well over 5 yards per carry his entire career, and this season, through 2 weeks, he's pushing it closer to 7. Damn. No, he'll never be a stud in the passing game, but his volume is just fine with that level of efficiency. Plus, 3 touchdowns through 2 games? What's to complain about here? You want a running back on the rise? Then I've got a chub for you. Sorry, couldn't resist. Is Zeke finally back to his old form? Nah, but he's getting closer, and this week he has a decent matchup at home against the Eagles. I think he'll hit on low-end RB1 numbers this week and continue to put fantasy managers at ease. He showed last week that he hasn't rolled over and died yet, even against a tough Chargers D. The Eagles will be much easier to run against, and he'll have that home cooking, so look for a hungry Zeke to get fed and eat it all up this week. Kamara had one of those uh-oh weeks last week, as in, it looked like a great matchup, but uh-oh, he only managed 30 total yards off of 12 total touches. Against the Panthers? Yikes. They aren't terrible, but they're no shutdown run-stopping D either. This week, he has an actual tough matchup against the stout Pats run D, who were top 10 last season, and this season, they're in the top 5. Yeah, this will be their first real test this season, and I don't think Kamara puts up a big dud like he did last week. He's still in the top 10 for me, but I don't see one of those 20-plus point games that we've seen customarily in the past from him. You aren't going to sit him, but temper expectations. On to the next set here. Chris Carson, as long as he's healthy, is a borderline RB1. The Vikings D is much better against the pass than they are the run. If Carson doesn't shatter, he'll have a good game. I think everyone will be getting in on this one on both sides of the ball. I expect 15 to 20 fantasy points from Carson, maybe more. Good start this week, even on the road. Saquon Barkley showed a little bit of flash last week on that long run. I don't know if he's quite 100%, and it still seems he's a little bit nervous about his knee, but he handled a larger workload than he did in week 1 and came out just fine. Phew. Dude was scaring me shitless there for a moment. Now I don't think he's going to be a superstar ever again, but I think he'll become more and more solid the more and more that he gets comfortable with that knee. I think he tests the waters a little bit more this week and starts to get back to what I think will be his new normal, high-end RB2 production. Old Saquon ain't coming back, but new Saquon should prove to be serviceable. Not a top 5 guy like he was, but should start every week. And this week, he's got the laughably lame Dirt Pigeons of Atlanta at home. I smell a get-right game for Saquon this week. Miles Sanders gets the fantasy fiesta of Dallas this week, so we should see his numbers improve a bit. Dallas is better on run D than pass D, sure, but there's still nothing special against the run. They let Austin Eckler have a heyday against them last week, and Miles Sanders could be next. I'm not pumping him up too high, but a little higher than normal for Sanders, who I usually have outside the top 15 running backs. Kenny Gainwell's going to get his too, but Sanders will be getting enough to produce a solid start at the RB2 position. If he doesn't, it'll be because Gainwell is stealing more touches, and that would actually make me excited about Gainwell, who I've been banging the drum for all season. But I think Sanders gets solid RB2 numbers here, and maybe a little better. I see something like 89 yards and a touchdown, maybe like 2 or 3 catches for right around 20 to 25 yards, something like that. Solid game here from Miles Sanders. On the downside, Antonio Gibson's usage is starting to scare some of his fantasy managers. I think he'll be fine and return to form as the season goes on. But in this game, he gets a tough matchup in Buffalo against the Bills, who have given up the 3rd fewest fantasy points to running back so far this season, and that includes stuffing Najee Harris in his NFL debut. I didn't want to put Gibson any lower, but I wouldn't be surprised if he drops out of the top 20 this week. And if he does, he'll be a bargain basement buy low candidate next week. I wouldn't sit him unless you're otherwise loaded at running back. Likely you aren't, as you probably took Gibson as your second, if not first, running back. So you're likely going to start him, but don't be surprised if he shits the bed. Eli Mitchell has some promise and talent. We have to keep an eye on his shoulder situation, though. Sounds like it's a little bit more than a stinger. They say he's going to be a full go, but even if he is, that backfield is a conundrum thanks to Shanahanigans. Who's it going to be this week? Will it be Eli? Or maybe Trent Cannon? Or Kerryon Johnson? Or maybe it's the new flavor and double deep danger dive candidate, Jacques Patrick? Or shit, maybe they bring back the ageless Frank Gore for some reason. I heard Keanu Reeves is on standby just in case they need a replacement. Yeah, bad joke. He wasn't even a running back in that movie. Whatever. Regardless of who it is, I think the Niners are going to need to pass more in this one against the Packers, so I don't see a big game for any of their running backs, even Eli. James Robinson will continue to trend down until we see something change. Against the Cardinals this week, I'm not seeing that happen. The Cards aren't giving up a lot in the run game. They currently sit as the 11th best defense against fantasy running backs. The Jags will need to score a lot of points to catch up with the Arizona Kylers, so that may write J-Rob out of the game script in a hurry. I hope we see J-Rob be J-Rob again at some point this season. It's possible, but not this week.
Keep an eye on Darrell Henderson's injury. If he's out, move Sony Michel up.
And for the last set, it was nice to see Zach Moss finally get in on the game, and they used him too. I think he's a better back than Singletary, but his usage remains a mystery every week. I see last week as being the best indicator, and he did well. He could get more touches this week against the Washington football team, who has a pretty good run D, but I still think Moss actually ranks this week, and could do even better than where I have him. I only hold him back because the Washington football team is so strong against the run. If you dropped Moss after he was benched in week 1, hopefully no one noticed, and you can get him back on your squad again. He'll be a thing if Coach McDermott doesn't blue ball us and hold him back. Kenny Gainwell's seeing some work and cutting into more of Sanders' touches than I think most people had expected this early. I think he becomes more and more involved in the offense as the season goes on. I'll be interested to see what he does this week. I bet it's better than last week. He deserves these touches, and I think he's going to get them and do a lot with them. Like I said about Sanders, the Eagles have the Fantasy Fiesta of Dallas this week, so Kenny could put up some high-end flex points in this one. Mike Davis isn't what fantasy managers hoped he would be for the Falcons, thanks in part to the usage of Cordero Patterson. I don't think Patterson becomes a consistently startable back, but he's getting touches away from Davis, and it's not like the Falcons' run game is anything dynamic to begin with. Davis is averaging under 4 yards per carry and has yet to eclipse 10 fantasy points in standard leagues. The Giants can be had in the run game, but I still think this will be a down game for Davis, as he'll be losing touches to Patterson, and that Falcons offense looks about as energized as my grandma after dialysis. Sit him if you can. And finally, Rojo, no. I'm done with this guy. Bruce Arians keeps saying he's their guy, but that's just more Bruce Arians blowing smoke up our asses, which seems to be his favorite pastime. I was dead wrong last week when I sent some garbage time Rojo magic. I must have had some stupid in my ear. Sorry about that. Rojo's mojo has been a no-show, and I think it's time for him to go. To the waiver wire, you certainly aren't starting him or Fournette against the Rams' wall of a defense this week. So that's it for this show, folks. That should give you an idea of what my articles are going to be like every week. I'll have one up for each position, but you can only get them if you sign up on Patreon. Become one of my super freaks and you can have it all. Articles, exclusive content, one-on-one help with your squad, with your lineup every week. All of that for just one Abe Lincoln a month. Now, I can only keep this party going if I can live, right? So help me live so I can help you kill in your fantasy league. Help me help you, and we'll help ourselves to fantasy glory this season. Hit a like down there. I need 10% likes for each video. I appreciate that immensely. Subscribe if you haven't. We've almost met our goal. We're only 35 subscribers away from 300. We get there before the end of the month, and you'll see what I have for you. It's going to be good. And if you want more in-depth analysis on who to sit and who to start this week, come back tomorrow for my flagship show, Benches and Bumps. That one drops every Friday. So enjoy the game tonight, and I'll see you tomorrow for Benches and Bumps. Until then, I'm out. Peace.